There was a man that exemplified leadership through torture and bravery in Japan. Even though he encountered tough times for the 1936 Olympics and environment of his life after World War II, he showed lots of leadership and legacy in the United States Army Air Force. This man is Louis Zamperini. Louis Zamperini was born in Olean, New York in 1917, but grew up most of his life in Torrance, California. He was known as the rotten kid in his childhood because he was always getting in trouble, and his chances of growing up and having a good life were pretty slim. But Louis had an older brother named Pete. As Louis Zamperini kept on getting in trouble, Pete saw something happening with Louis. Louis was really fast, and he was able to outrun anyone who was trying to catch him. Nobody could catch up to him, and it wasn't until Louis was 15 when Pete introduced him to track. Pete basically acted as a coach for Louis, training him, and from all that training, he was able to become the best high school mile runner in history. He got this title in the high school national championship when he ran a mile in 4 minutes and 21.3 seconds. Next, Louis wanted to try the 5,000 meter race, even though he had never tried it. With 2 weeks of preparation, he was facing off against Norman Bright in the Elite 5000. Norman Bright was the second fastest runner for the 5,000 meter. Louis Zamperini came in second, but beat Norman, and after one impressive race, he was invited to the Olympic trials in New York. After an exasperating race with many injuries to the racers, the announcer announced that Louis had won the race. He went on to amaze everyone and become well known as a racer. When the 1940 Olympics were coming around, Louis Zamperini was ready to race. Unfortunately, the race got canceled due to World War II. This is when he enlisted into the Army. He acted as a bombardier in a B-24 bomber named the Green Hornet. On May 27, 1943, Louis crashed into the ocean while on a search and rescue mission over the Palmyra Islands. As he was flying over the islands, an engine on the left side died. They were fine and still able to fly until an engineer accidentally shut off the other engine on that side, and they became a falling rock. As they crashed, they cartwheeled and exploded, and as the plane sunk to the bottom, Louis swallowed a nauseous saltwater mix with gasoline, oil, hydraulic fluid, and blood, and he somehow managed to inflate the life jacket. As he got to the surface, all he could see was wreckage, fire, and smoke, and about 20 feet away he could see pilot Russell Allen Phillips and tail gunner Francis McNamara cling to a fuel tank. Louis Zamperini then blew up a life raft and went to the other survivors. Russell Allen Phillips was bleeding badly and needed to be lifted up by Louis, but McNamara got himself up. While on the boat, Zamperini found scant provisions in their life pockets. A few chocolate bars, a few half-pint tins of water, a flare gun, fish hooks and line, and other supplies according to the Hillenbrand book. Soon the sharks found them, mako and reef sharks, Zamperini believed. They rubbed their backs along the raft bottom as they passed underneath. In the first few days, they spotted a B-25 and a B-24, but both planes failed to notice them or the flares they fired. Thirst, starvation, and agony set in. They used up the water in the first week and depended on rainstorms to give them precious water. On the 27th day, they were intercepted by a Japanese boat. Louis jumped into the water, dodging bullets, but also defending off nearby sharks. The other survivors stayed in the lifeboat acting dead, and none of them got hit by bullets. The bullets lasted for 45 minutes, and many holes in the life raft were submerging the boat in water. On the 33rd day, McNamara died. On the 47th day, they reached the Marshall Islands, where they knew that they were in Japanese hands. They washed ashore in Hawaii. From there, the Japanese took them to nearby Kwajalein, and he was blindfolded and put in a dog kennel-sized cubicle. During his time there, he thought 4 weeks ago he could run a 4-minute mile, but now he could barely fend for himself. From here, he became a guinea pig, doctors inserting strange substances into him. In his cell, he read names of Marines who were beheaded before him. About 6 weeks there, he was sent to another camp. He was sent to Afuna in a secret camp in Japan. He was then sent to Omari, where he met the bird, whose real name was Mutsuhiro Watanabe. He punched Louis every day for 10 days, and in November 1944, Louis was taken to a Japanese radio station in Tokyo to broadcast the propaganda. Louis agreed only after the officers let him write the script. Back in Torrance, his family received his death certificate signed by President Roosevelt, but soon realized he was alive because of the broadcast. When Louis refused to do another broadcast, the Japanese wrote they put him on a train to Nuetu. He thought at least he'd be getting away from the bird, but then he saw him shortly after arrival. He got many beatings and whips across the face of his back. Throughout his time at the POW, he was not given any treatment. and they broke his nose 3 times and forced him to do acts. These acts involve things like doing push-ups over human remains and shoving his head into human remains, and other gruesome things of this nature. He became free when World War II ended. He didn't know what actually happened until a B-29 flew overhead and flicked a Morse code message with its red lights that said the war is over. In the end, he spent 25 months as a POW and got many scars and wounds.
I mean, World War II started before the United States got in. It started in 1939 when Germany invaded Poland, and the major cause of the beginning of the war is the desire of Germany to expand and conquer nations around it. We got into the war in 1941 when the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. We then declared war on Japan, and when we declared war on Japan, Germany declared war on us. And so we were now in a situation in 1941 to fight a war against the Japanese in the Pacific and the Germans in Europe. I don't know that you can totally control that, but I think that, in fact, you can't control it. You leave a legacy by doing something significant, but that legacy is not simply based on what you do, but it's based on what people make of your life after you're gone. So if someone goes and writes a book about Zamperini, his legacy is being shaped in part by the person who wrote the book and their perspective, and it's not just about Zamperini's life. I mean, it's partly about that, but the author or the people who create the legacies, the filmmakers, bookmakers, all that stuff, they have their own points of view and interpretations too. So the legacy is created not only by what you do, but what people make of what you did later on.
After being released from Japan, Louis suffered from many post-war syndromes. Because of this, Louis was drawn towards alcohol. The alcohol was really starting to affect him and his family, and his life seemed to be turning for the worst. But then something hit Louis. Listening to Billy Graham, a preacher who was preaching in Florida at the time, inspired Louis. After that moment, he made the decision to devote his life to God. He then went back to Japan to preach and tell his torturers and captors that he forgave them. He also became a successful writer, writing books like The Devil at My Heels and The Story of Louis Zamperini. In his later years, he ran the Olympic torch in 1998 for the Japan Winter Olympics. The amazing thing was, the street he ran down was where his old POW camp was. It was almost as if it were a conclusion to his sufferings. Louis Zamperini first became famous when Laura Hillenbrand wrote the book Unbroken in 2010, and then again when the movie Unbroken was made in late 2014 on Christmas Day. And on the 5th anniversary of Pearl Harbor, they renamed Torrance Airport to Zamperini Field. Louis Zamperini died of pneumonia on July 2nd, 2014.
If you love somebody, better tell them why they're here, 'cause they just may run away from you. You'll never know quite when, well, then again it just depends on how long the time is left for you. I've had the highest mountains, I've had the deepest river. You can have it all, but life keeps moving. I'll take it in, but don't look down. 'Cause I'm on top of the world, eh? I'm on top of the world, eh? Been waiting on this for a while now, paying my dues to the dirt. I've been waiting to smile, eh? Been holding it in for a while, eh? Take you with me if I can. Been dreaming of this since a child. I'm on top of the world. I've tried to cut these corners, try to take the easy way out. I kept on falling short of something. I could've gave up